So this is, what is this, number 3? Yeah, this is the third one. It is May 22nd, 2012. And this is the Brothers WISP. Unfortunately, Andrew Cox stayed up all night playing Diablo 3 and just went to sleep not too long ago. So unfortunately, we won't have him tonight, but we still have JJ Boyd and the masterful Justin Wilson.
Woohoo!
Who you can't see because he's on a Mac, which is unfortunate. Macs are very computer-like. Unfortunately, they just never seem to function properly.
Don't they come with built-in webcams and stuff?
Yeah, Skype's not very supportive of it, though.
Well, Skype was bought by Microsoft not too long ago, so...
Conspiracy, man.
I'm telling you, dude. Although supposedly they run a lot of Linux in their infrastructure.
Why would they do that? I mean, they have a superior product, I've heard.
I don't know.
They
I
probably can't.
guess that's what it was developed on, so that's what they're sticking with. I'm sure that has everything to do with it.
They probably can't understand the licensing.
Buzzing. All right, man. So let's see. On this one, I had a question from a guy who was asking about kind of in general securing your WISP. Kind of what do you do? And then another one was kind of a brain teaser from Mike by way of Justin. And then let's see what else has happened. JJ's. Well, I mean, it's been a couple months since our last one, and that's entirely my fault. I was recertifying some stuff, and so I was just basically turned off my life and studied for that for a couple months, and finally came on the other side of that, which is good because I was about to go crazy. And
And you passed and everything?
oh yeah, for sure, man. Of course.
I figured so. We got to let everybody know that, though.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
So I'm just recertifying my CCMP.
Cool.
So like I try to tell everybody, if you have any questions, ask me now before it all falls out of my head, because it's already starting to.
No, it's not.
So I was really, really glad to be done with that for a little while. Let's see. And so that's what I've been doing. JJ has... Have you taken one plane trip so far?
Yeah, I've been. I went out to Seattle last week. I don't remember what week it was. Helped some guys with some microtik stuff, and they're deploying the stuff. They've got like a monitoring. I'm trying to figure out how to explain what they do. They've got this system that they monitor heating, like condensing units on the roofs of like large malls and things like that, and it allows them to pull telemetry from all of these heating units.
Sounds like a SCADA system.
Yeah, but no, like it's their own proprietary thing, and they're using all MikroTik radios and routers. Then they kind of take a 750 access point and like an OmniTik, and then they also have like a Sierra wireless modem inside this enclosure. Weird. So they have 3G going into the roof, and then they make their own, wireless LAN on the roof to talk to 50 or so rooftop units, and they control fan speeds, and then they also have like a web login for the operators of this stuff, and they can control all the fan speeds, and it's supposed to really save the operators of this super duper HVAC equipment a lot of money on electricity.
Yeah,
so.
That sounds like a SCADA system to me, brother.
No.
It's data access and control. That's pretty much what that is. So what have you been doing, Justin? What's new with you, brother?
Well, we went from we had a dispute on one of my WISPs. We had a dispute with a town. We were on a water tower, and we went from having no tower to a 140-foot stacked tower in 3 days with no concrete. So if that...
How does that work?
We actually had a company come out and drill auger. Imagine a big auger they use for power companies. We have 3 of those holding the guy wires in, and then 1 holding the plate in. There's not a lick of concrete in the whole 140-foot tower.
It's just a big auger that screws in.
Yep.
That sounds like whenever you tie down a trailer house, you auger those babies down, and you. Not that I know anything about that.
Yeah, there's probably about, it's 10 foot in total. Probably about 5 foot of its shaft, and then the rest is the screw auger. We were able to go pick up the tower one day, had the drilling company come out the next day, and we were stacking tower the 3rd day.
Very nice.
That's cool.
We just cut down trees and build a small tower. So.
You just put up a little pole, don't you?
Yeah, a little pole, and just cut all the trees down.
Well, everything JJ does is on the side of a mountain, so it's not such a big deal.
Yeah.
Right.
He doesn't.
I got another trip coming up Friday, and I hope to be able to talk more about it.
Yeah, you super secret squirrel. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I'm not going to press you. I don't want to get you in trouble.
Right.
As long as you bring me on the next trip, obviously.
Right. Well, we'll see. I want to get out my list and see. I like this person and this person and this person.
So speaking of trips,
cool.
I know you guys have confirmed for the mum, right? Justin,
yes.
And JJ has, and I'm definitely going to be there. And Justin's actually giving a presentation where he's giving away free cookies, which is going to be awesome.
Yep, cookies.
And then I'm going to be doing one on BGP. What's yours going to be on, JJ?
I don't know. Probably not going to do one. I like watching you guys too much.
Is that right? Well, on my blog, I put up the idea of it would be cool to do kind of a round table. And I was thinking, us, 4 idiots or 3 idiots, I guess, depending on how many idiots
we can Skype him in.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That would be hilarious. Just him on Skype with the laptops in there. We can put like a jacket around it so it's like a real person.
There you go.
It has to be like a 12-year-old boy's jacket. It's got to be super skinny. That way, it's life size for him. But yeah, and then Norman said that is something that they occasionally do. So I was thinking, well, maybe even kind of a sanctioned thing. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool to have, those guys come in, even for a couple minutes and, field some questions or something.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking, it's, just like the however many of us we have sitting at a table, people coming up and firing questions really fast and just throwing stuff out there. Not actually doing anything, but just talking about it. That's totally cool with me.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I was thinking that was cool. Or maybe if we do it kind of unsanctioned at some place where they just feed you guys beers, and we'll see how accurate your answers get as time progresses.
See how long we last.
Yeah, it'd be pretty good. It'd be pretty good, I think.
I think it would become a couple of bumbling idiots talking about prophecies of wireless or something.
Yeah,
we could come up with a drinking game out of it.
I think if we're gonna do it that way and we're going for weird, we got to get Sam in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll get real weird real quick. I think that'd be great.
Right.
Cool,
for
man.
Sure.
Right.
He could do an Arduino segment.
Probably. I have no doubt that Sam could give a segment on just about anything.
For sure.
And you may or may not want to hear his answers. Who knows? So let's get started on the security one. Shut the door, buddy. So starting out, the guy was just asking on general security. He didn't really say specifically one way or the other what he was exactly talking about, which I think is kind of good. It kind of leaves it open, and in general we can kind of hit a few things. So I made some quick notes, and you guys just kind of interject and jump in. And I was going to start kind of at the internet border and work my way back. So securing the border router obviously is that's your entry point into the internet. That's going to be your most vulnerable spot, I would think. Although it seems like most attacks nowadays seem to be coming from the inside when people's machines get compromised. But securing the border router, so the router itself, Step 1, disable unused services. First thing I always do when I'm configuring a router is go to IP services, turn everything off but Winbox, and then lock down administrative access. Make sure only your admins can get in. If you have a specific subnet or you want to have a VPN account that you have to VPN into, and then go from there. And then also some reflexive firewall rules. So if you're getting port scanned, you can block people. Be sure to tar pit people because it really annoys them.
Yep.
I have kind of a basic firewall rule set, and if people seem interested, I'll go ahead and post it up. Because I don't usually charge for it. I just charge for the time I do to install it. And if you guys just want to copy and paste and save yourself a couple of bones, I'm all for that. But what I do in there is, if people seem to be scamming or doing anything I don't like, I tar pit them. And so I ended up sticking this on a customer one time, and they have this PCI compliance they have to deal with. So your IP address gets scanned by an outside source. And the scan took 10.5 hours, where it normally takes about 45 minutes for the company. And then they failed the scan because they said every single TCP port was open. Because basically what it does is once you get identified as a scan, it just sucks in everything and holds it open. So it literally crashed their script multiple times when they were trying to scan the company. So to me, that's a pass. It passed.
Yeah,
but
that is a pass.
Since the report technically said every single TCP port was open, it failed.
That's terrible.
Which I think is
I also find it necessary for the forward traffic I get a lot of attacks on any open port 22, specifically coming out of China mostly.
Yep.
So we run that script to if you open so many connections on port 22 in a certain amount of time, it adds it to an ACL that just gets dropped or tar pitted or however you want to set it up. So
what's crazy is I've seen lately I've been seeing like SSH attacks coming at it's interesting because they come one every minute on the dot, or one every 5 minutes. I can't remember, but so it'll one break-in attempt, and then it'll wait 5 minutes, then one more break-in attempt. It's like at this rate it'll take until the internet version 10 is out before they actually break in. It's just ridiculous.
What is the point? I guess they're just doing it in such a sheer volume that they figure they'll get one every once in a while.
Yeah, maybe on the off chance that somebody will have root and password set up or something.
And I've seen kind of a variation of some botnets where I'll see the same attack every minute or so from 10 different IPs. So you got 10 attacks a minute, but they're all from different IPs. And I've noticed if one stops, they all stop. So someone's found that botnet and kind of stopped it.
Yeah. So you were talking about attacks coming from China. There used to be this site called countryipblocks.net. You could go in there, you could enter in, or select from this little list box all the different countries, and it would spit out all of their CIDR blocks associated with them, and then you could just create an ACL to block specific countries. And I've done that for certain people, block Brazil. A lot of attacks come out of South America. I'd block China, a lot of that stuff. Because if say you're a WISP in Ohio, there's not a whole lot of people from China that are going to be, attempting to log into your router, or really should be. So it's kind of easy to do some stuff like that.
Yeah, that would be. I used to do that on a lot of the Cisco routers I managed, but I kind of lost track of anywhere that keeps track of those. Nanog does a little, but I haven't been able to find anybody that keeps a pretty up to date list, which shouldn't be that big of a deal anymore since all the IPs are allocated now.
Yeah, it looks like countryipblocks.net now is a pay service. Looks like it's not free anymore. Such is life. But I bet there's something similar to it out there. So also at your border router, say on your towers or some devices like that that's part of your private infrastructure, you've got public IPs at the border router. You can block external access coming in. I mean, that's another good safe bet to do right there on the border router. Securing towers is going to be another key piece, I think. One you're
Before
going
we
to
go
want to.
that far, Greg, what's your thought on BGP, like MD5 authentication and things like that? Is it really a big deal or not?
You know what? The MD5 authentication on BGP is not such a big one, but to me, any built-in security feature, I usually enable it. So on all of my BGP peers have MD5 authentication. Even if the password's not that complex, I still put it on there. My OSPF instances, I always put authentication on there too.
So do I. Yes, so do I.
And really, that's primarily to protect the network from myself, because I have a tendency to use my own network as my lab, even though I know I shouldn't. And I'm not saying it's happened, but I'm saying there's the possibility that maybe I put something on my network when I was labbing, and it picked up an OSPF process and black hole stuff. Stuff happens, So if you have that authentication on there, and then you just happen to be farting around on this router and you plug it in your instance, it's not going to just pick up and go, If you have somebody, like physically trying to jump into your OSPF domain, I think you got bigger problems.
Well, and it kind of helps. I've ran across this issue. One of the companies I'm involved with, we sell bandwidth to several other WISPs.
Yeah.
So we're in several spots we're not doing BGP. We're just doing static routes to these WISPs. There's no real exchanges, and the OSPF authentication protects both parties from interjecting routes. I had a problem several years ago. We were buying bandwidth from another neighboring WISP, and we didn't run MD5 authentication, and we turned up a new link with them, and all of a sudden we received all their routes.
Yeah.
Well, there was a fair amount of overlapping IP space, and we had to reboot a lot of routers to clear caches and stuff like that.
Stuff got hairy really quick. Yeah, and I know, especially when it comes to BGP, for me, before I ever turn up a peer, I have filter lists. I mean, to me, that's critical. So whether I'm pulling IP from an ISP or I'm handing it off to a customer, there's filter lists, both inbound and outbound, that specifically says what I'm going to accept and what I'm going to send. I never just wholly take anything from anybody. I'm too paranoid. I can't trust anybody, especially like in a data center environment where it's 100% SLA. You just can't take chances.
True.
I absolutely can't. I can't leave anything open for anybody to exploit in any way, shape, or form. I got to try and lock it down as much as you can. I don't anywhere actually peer via OSPF with any of our customers. If I'm gonna do a dynamic protocol, it's only BGP. That's all I ever do with anybody. Just because I feel like you have a little bit more control. It moves a little bit slower, like OSPF by default. Let's see if I can remember. The hello interval is, I think, 15 seconds. Is that right? I think it's 15 seconds, and it's 4 times that. No. 30, 4 times 3. I think it's 30 seconds?
I know router dead is 40. So.
Yeah, I can't even remember. I just took the test like 3 weeks ago, and I can't even remember now. But anyway, so it reacts relatively quick. It moves quick. The default for BGP is a keep alive every 60 seconds and 3 times the fail. So it moves a lot slower. If somebody's link is flapping, BGP will dampen, whereas OSPF will just kind of dance a jig up and down, and things will get unpredictable, So, and also OSPF, pretty much all I carry in there is a default route and my interconnecting links between my sites. I don't really carry kind of real routes on there. So things just kind of, with BGP, stay a little bit more stable, smooth out a little bit. Plus, it gives the customer a lot of control on what they want to send to me, what they don't, what they want to receive. So the burden's not always wholly on me for that stuff. And actually, my presentation at the MUM is about multi-home BGP. A lot of people are starting to move to the point where they have two providers they're doing BGP with, but they're not really sure exactly how to configure everything. How do you do the rest of your infrastructure? So I'm just going to kind of do a quick 30-minute presentation that encompasses 95% of people out there and how that works and how to configure it with all the code and stuff like that. But let's see. Securing towers. And this guy is probably going to be someplace you're going to be a lot better at. Most of the towers now are going to be routed for most people, so you're going to have routers out there, and I would think pretty much the same rules apply as the border router. Protect the router, make sure only your management subnets can actually log into it. But then out at your towers, they should already be protected from people trying to come in from the internet. So you're going to, again, disable unused services, lock down administrative access, and if you can, prevent any client subnets from connecting into the router. Now, Justin wrote a little post not too long ago, and I'll link to that, about to encrypt or not to encrypt, I think is what you call it.
Yeah.
And so how do you feel about encrypting your backhauls?
I'll do mine, and then JJ can. I don't know JJ's thoughts on this. My philosophy is the internet. None of the internet links out there are encrypted. So why, if I can keep customers off of my network, whether they be a customer that hasn't paid, or if they just some customer that got a hold of a unit, if I can keep those types of customers off my network via some other mechanism, whether it be a walled garden type of setup or something like that, I shouldn't have to encrypt my data, because the customer should have the expectation that the data that they're sending isn't encrypted. If they're doing online banking or something like that, it's encrypted without the ISP doing anything. Most of if you're using Google Mail, you're using some sort of SSL authentication, so your password's protected that way.
Did we just lose it?
You still there, Justin?
Terrible, Max.
Ugh.
Can you hear me now?
I got you, brother.
Yeah.
There you are.
Okay. I was talking all wild and hit my mute button.
That's generally how I hold a conversation like this.
So, I have no control over what some guy's going to do, say 3 hops up. So if I'm encrypting my network, by the time it hits my upstream provider, why should I really, worry about encryption? I mean, those are kind of my general thoughts on it.
You know what, and that's really valid. And I can't think of anything that anybody does that's considered secure that's going to be plain text. Even remote administration. I don't know anybody that really uses Telnet anymore. You've got SSH, and even Winbox will encrypt itself. So I was thinking, if you're telnetting to your infrastructure and you encrypt your backhauls, that keeps somebody from seeing your passwords plain text. But I don't really know anybody that just does everything plain text anymore.
No, we don't encrypt any of our backhauls. We certainly don't encrypt the APs. We have other mechanisms in place to to keep authentication in check. As far as we just do it in layers. We kind of start with the attitude of, okay, well, we're very vendor specific. We've got some Canopy, we've got some Ubiquity, and then we've got some Skypilot stuff on the network still. And all 3 of those, especially the Skypilot, it's so proprietary. If somebody wants to go pay $600-700 for some hokey CPE and point it towards the network. Go ahead. That's layer one, and then we've got different layers beyond there. Like with Ubiquity, we do AirMax, micro tickets, NV2. We always have some protocol, so you're not going to just go buy like an alpha, Wi-Fi card and point it towards the tower and
and then even on top of that, if you're running, smaller channels, even if somebody does have that equipment and they just do a scan, they're not going to see you unless they configure down to that same channel width you're at, and then do a scan. Exactly.
We run offset channels, like we don't run on the center frequencies as so we wouldn't even show up on a scan for like a laptop or something anyway. We're kind of in between the standard frequencies. And then another thing that we're doing is some places, we have to run all the way down to 10 megahertz because our backhauls are so long. You can't do it with 20 meg. You can do some of the MV2 or point-to-point NOAC if you're running Ubiquity, but both of those things at long distances just aren't all they're cracked up to be. I find that dropping down to 10 megs is your best bet.
And I think the customer's attitude has kind of changed over the past couple years. The customer now doesn't really care what delivery method they get their internet from, as long as they get their internet. Several years ago, I know at least our local, news channels were going around, Wi-Fi is bad because you got all these open Wi-Fi hotspots. Well, I think people have kind of been educated on that a little, and they say, okay, our most WISPs, at least the majority of customers think, okay, most WISPs are not Wi-Fi. They've kind of, they know, okay, you're not, just some Linksys access point that you put up there. This is something that's a step above.
Yeah. I guess what's another thing encryption cuts out is like man-in-the-middle attacks, I guess, unless they have your encryption key. But really, who's going to be standing on top of a building with, a 900 megahertz radio, with a 5 megahertz channel, blasting my SSID to try and man-in-the-middle? So nobody's going to do that. That's just ridiculous. So.
Well, if you man in the middle it, what's to stop you from running some of the other brute forcing tools, especially if you're running WP and WPA, just a couple hours and it's yours. So encryption or not, if someone's dedicated enough.
Yeah. If the government wants your information, they have it. It's not a big deal.
It goes straight to their servers anyway. Are you kidding?
I'm pretty sure it does. And then us as WISPs, we have CALEA compliance. So if we get a court order from the FBI, we're dumping everything from you to them anyway. But you know what? If I really wanted your traffic, I would probably just get a thumb drive and put a Trojan on it and drop it in your driveway. And I'm willing to bet you're going to take that thing to your house and you stick it in your PC.
Yeah, you're going to see what it's all about.
It's not that big a deal. I'm not saying I've done that, but I'm not saying I haven't done it. Never mind. I'm not going to even say who, in theory, it might have happened to. But another popular method is cheap iPods. People will 100% stick a cheap iPod in their laptop or in their anything. So you're guaranteed kill on that one. So I'm kind of jumping the gun on that, but securing clients like CPEs, that's going to be kind of, I guess, really sort of the last step in the chain. So protect the clients. Don't let the client log into your radio. That'd probably be a good idea.
Yep.
Don't tell them how. Most likely they won't even bother trying to. They don't care as long as it works, Disable unused services, same old rigmarole. Lockdown administrative access, and clients to towers. We've already talked about encryption. And,
we do some IP tables rules in our CPEs we run PPPoE, so we only allow PPPoE traffic to come out of that. wireless LAN interface, and then our management VLAN. But we're still rolling the management VLANs out on the Ubiquiti stuff because it's still a little unfinished.
And so, kind of to keep a client from touching your infrastructure is on the access point you can do client isolation so that when they connect in they can't hit any other customers, and from that point on they should be in your router, and in your router you can have ACLs, it's access lists that prevent one customer from talking to another customer. So basically you can prevent them from hitting anything in your infrastructure and only go to the internet. So in that effect, you don't even give them the opportunity to touch any of your infrastructure.
Yeah, one of the things that we do is we do a couple things. One is all the infrastructure, the APs and things like that, are on separate IP subnets. And they're also on separate VLANs, so we get kind of a double thing there, because what I see a lot of times is the WISP gets, I don't want to say lazy, but they say, hey, I got an installer out in the field, I don't have enough manpower, so I'm going to set up my network where the installer can log directly into the AP. Well, if the installer can do that, then so can the customer.
Yeah.
So, one method to get around that is, hey, if the customer has internet, make the installer plug their laptop in and initiate a VPN connection. Once they're on the VPN, then they can talk to the APs. Sure, it might be, a couple extra minutes, but it's going to really protect your network from the customer. Because, I don't really see malicious customers out there this much, but you guys probably see the customer that is the gamer customer. Hey man, I'm trying to get the best I can out of my connection, so I'm going to see, well, what's my ISP running for hardware. So I'm going to probe them and do Google searches on it and try to figure out, okay, what can I tell them to make my gaming experience better.
Yeah, that sounds like JJ right there.
I would never.
Yeah, never. And that's certainly true. And I've seen people do port knocks too, kind of like, which is sort of like poor man's VPN. So if you just hit a series of ports, then it'll kind of unlock the radio for an hour. That way you can get in there and configure things.
I like the way Andrew port knocks. He just opens up Google and says : 4040 : 7040 : 3030, and then bam, there you go.
Yeah. Another way I port knock sometimes is to hit the from a browser, hit the IP of your radio or your router, and then // in a special URL like unlikemyradio.html. And you just have an L7 looking for somebody trying to do a get on, unlikemyradio.html, and then it'll open up, even though it's not a real page that exists.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And that's really good for people that say they have an IP camera set up, and they want to just be able to log in via their iPhone or whatever. And then you say, okay, we'll just hit the shortcut first, and then go to this next link, and it'll just port knock, and then bam, they're right in looking at their cameras.
Very nice. Speaking of mobile devices and going back to the installer thing, when we're out installing, or if we got someone out, they have VPN credentials, and then as soon as they're deployed with that radio, they know what IP address it's going to be on before they get there. They can use their phone through the VPN to bring that radio up as soon as they get it locked onto the asset, and tweak it from the top of a ladder with their smartphone or whatever, so they know exactly what the signal is, as opposed to, saying, oh, it's got 3 lots, that's good, or, whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So kind of the last thing pretty much the last thing is securing your administrative machines. I can't tell you how important this really is. Case in point, an ISP I've done some work for called me a little while ago and said, hey, we got hacked. One of the machines that we have Dude loaded on is also the secretary's machine, and she was surfing, got some nasty virus. Well, the people Trojaned into that dude machine, somehow they knew what the dude was, and they started connecting to their APs.
Oh no.
And they wreaked havoc. I mean, these guys, like they were describing problems inside the routers that I didn't even think was possible for things to happen. And it took a little digging and all that kind of stuff. And they had like 6 to 4 tunnel going through IPv6 so that they could help hide stuff. And then they were popping back out. And I mean, it was a mess. They basically had to just completely wipe everything. I mean, like they had like these BitLocker hard drives that got corrupted. These guys were like jacking them up so much, and so they basically lost everything. They had to wipe everything clean. They had to shut down like all of their routed infrastructure and then bring them up one at a time and resetting them and then loading them back. So lock down your administrative machine if you can. Put it on a machine that doesn't have anything but dude access. You know, don't log in there. Don't browse the web from it. Don't do crap like that. It's just your admin
run it
machine.
on a VM, and that's all it does.
Exactly.
On that VM, it is the dude. I was running it on my core router because it's an x86 machine, and then the more I did that, the less I was impressed with that because the dude sometimes does strange things and needs to be rebooted. And I don't want to reboot my core router just to to restart the dude.
So my recommendation is run it on a machine that you RDP into, that you remote desktop into. Run the dude from there, or just connect remotely through the dude's remote connection interface. Don't log in and browse and mess around. And
speaking of the dude, you got any information on what's up with updates or releases? Or seems like it's kind of a back burner project.
Seems like it's kind of stagnated a little bit. Yeah. Honestly, I haven't heard anything about it.
I got on their forum and started doing some reading, and a lot of people or one person in particular that was pretty vocal about it was begging them to open source it. So I think that would be kind of a neat avenue for them to go with that. So I mean, it's already free. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. They're probably afraid that somebody else would grab it and jazz it up, make it prettier, and then put it back out there.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, they could kind of go the approach like other vendors do. Keep certain core bits of it, compiled in the SDK, and just give other parts that maybe they're not that interested in working on. So leverage the power of the community to fix your product. So for free, why not?
I don't know. Maybe all the comments are in Latvian or something. It would just be too cumbersome to try and dig your way back out of there.
That would be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think most developers work in English. So.
Yeah.
And before we get off the topic of security, one of the things I see a lot of, and because this isn't by default on most APs, is client isolation. Ubiquity by default, client isolation is not on. That prevents client A on the same AP from talking to client B. They have to go through, the AP and the router to talk to each other.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much the de facto best practice right there. And then in the router, you just keep clients from talking to each other, and everybody's happy.
One of the, like you were talking about Kalia earlier, I've actually had an instance where the Kalia warrant came in, the men in black show up at the doorstep and say, hey, you got 2 bad guys out there. Here they are. Oh, they're on the same AP. They're not talking internet traffic. They're talking amongst themselves.
Oof.
So, they were, doing nasty stuff. So we had to go in and, capture that traffic. And it was on a network where client isolation was not enabled, and they're just talking to each other directly through the AP.
Interesting.
Yeah. It'd be kind of suspicious to go out there and plug a magic box off of their AP and then just walk away. I'm sure they would never notice. Yeah. They'd kind of stick out, you climbing on their house.
Yeah.
Network upgrades, right?
Yeah, I did see some where somebody commercialized one of these little it's basically looks like a wall wart, but it's got an Ethernet jack, and it kind of, it's like an automatic backdoor into somebody's network. You just throw it in, you jam that in, and it sniffs the network and pulls an IP, and then allows you to
Tunnels
backdoor.
out. Yeah,
it creates a little
I've
tunnel.
seen one of those.
And then I saw where the government commissioned some security agency to do something similar, and they used pogo plugs. They took pogo plugs and then just loaded a Linux on there and just made them basically like an attack, like a little just an attack, this big, and you just hide it in somebody's network and it goes to town.
Sam and I were talking the other day. We wonder how many pallets of, say, Cisco routers get shipped to places like Iran and wherever that have modified firmware on them that just, reflects all that traffic to some NSA server or what have you.
I don't know. There's a lot of restrictions, especially on Cisco, because there's certain encryption algorithms that you can't export to other countries. And
remember the days of
a lot of those are part of
Netscape, where you had to sign the waiver that you weren't going to, take the 120-bit, 8-bit browser out of the country.
That's way before my time.
Oh, okay, I'm dating myself then. Yeah, I remember in Netscape version 2, you actually had to sign a paper if you downloaded it. And you're supposed to send the paper back within so many days that said, you were downloading the U.S. only version and you weren't going to give it to, anybody outside the country.
Wacky, man. Yeah, Cisco's the same way. Whenever you're downloading iOS that has security encryption built in, they make you pretty much hit a checkbox that says, I won't take it to these other countries. Where I'm
Well, I was talking about like the little home routers, like, just the little, 4000s or what have you. Just you go into Best Buy and buy a router, and, Habib goes in and gets himself a new router, and lo and behold, it's popping all of his material back.
You say government's capturing information. There was some website I saw a little while back, and I actually printed the forms. I haven't done anything with them, but you can request from all the different government agencies information about you, like your folder, your portfolio, and gives you. I mean, everything's ready to go. You just have to put in like a couple bucks or something. I think it's pretty cheap, and then mail that off. And you never know if they've been following you or anything, but. I was thinking, I know for sure the government watches me because I get random emails from all over the world all the time. Like once a month, I'll get something from Iran, like, hey, can you help me with this? I actually got one from Iran saying, hey, there's this firewall that the country has in place, and I need a way to tunnel through it to backdoor. And I was like, I'm not touching this. I just deleted that one. I was like, no way am I coming anywhere near that. But yeah, I mean, they're watching us all. They got a nice little folder.
Oh, yeah.
On everybody.
I used to work for an unnamed university, and Homeland Security came in one day and put in, I mean, literally it was a black rack. You can't see in it, nothing. And they put in this rack in one of the data centers, and no one knew what it did. They just put it in.
That's crazy. So
it was Facebook. That was.
But all the social networks and all the search engines have a backdoor government tap on them. So I have no problem. I got nothing to hide. I'm boring. What's the point?
That's what.
Yeah, I'm as boring as the next person. So.
That's what a 4024 whatever it is bit ciphers for on PGP.
I don't know, because I remember reading how, golly, for a couple, it's probably a year ago, 2 years ago, I think it was for like a 15-minute span, like something like 10% of the world's internet traffic accidentally shifted through China and routed through China. And I think it was like all of the .gov domains, like I think Facebook, and then some of the major search engines, maybe Microsoft.com, like everything. But that was ample time for them to do a capture and then go back and get to cracking, So.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was accidental, purely accidental.
Yep.
Stuff happens. So that's the security part. One thing I remember now that I'm thinking about it is because I wanted to talk about this before we moved on because I know I'll forget is JJ put up a little post not too long ago about Ubiquity's 5 gigahertz UN to FCC approval, right?
Yes,
So
they announced in Chicago that they were going to be releasing firmware to open up the Uni 2 band in the United States. Originally, whenever Ubiquity sold their hardware, you had a lot of these frequencies, and they started backing off. All these firmware updates removed frequencies from the list because they were basically non-compliant. They didn't have their DFS code straightened out, their radar avoidance stuff. So the FCC got on them. I think it all started with a company out of Utah Broadband or something. They were using basically 4.9 gig, 5 gig, specifically PDWR. I think 5620 to 5640 or they were next to a major airport that had wind shear radar, and they got a lot of trouble. And then so the FCC, I think, came down on Ubiquity, and then they locked out these frequencies. But they recertified the devices with the DFS, so it's going to open up the Uni 2 band again. And what you have to do is you have to go to Ubiquity's website and go to this. I think it's ubiquity.com. I don't know the URL. Slash.
Something. We'll post it the link.
Yeah. And they, you fill it out. You tell them how many units you got of what tops, and this is only pertaining to 5 gigahertz equipment. And they send you stickers. You basically got to put new stickers on all your hardware, no matter if it's 1,000 foot in the air. It's got to have a new sticker put on it. Then you get a unique code for version 5.5.1 that's unique to your company that you paste into their firmware, and then it unlocks these frequencies for use on your hardware, on US-based hardware. So that's kind of the download on all of that.
And some guys out there may ask, well, what good's the sticker going to do me? Why do I have to have the sticker? And I had a discussion the other day. It's very important, especially if you're on commercial towers. Especially the big boys, American Tower, guys like that. If there's ever a question, they're going to say, hey, you didn't have the proper sticker on your stuff. If you follow the letter of the law, you're not compliant. So, even if you're running proper firmware and everything, they could still give you an issue, administratively and legally, just because you didn't have the right sticker on there.
So, I'm sure that there's going to be, people that go out and get their little codes and pop it all over their radios and open up those frequencies. But all of our major deployments that we're actually going to attempt to use new frequencies on, we will definitely revisit that. I'm kind of just thinking, it's running pretty good right now. When the newer rocket, the titaniums, come out, we're seriously looking at it, especially the places where we're co-located with FM towers. Get a lot of interference on our radios coming from that. These high power FM stations. So, especially the television station that we're co-located with, it's tough.
Cool. So, that's the Uni 2 FCC approval. Let's see what else. I guess we can move on to kind of that brain teaser that Mike came up with. And I guess Justin, you'd probably be able to relay kind of exactly what he was looking for better than I could.
He's kind of looking for, say you have a hotspot in a mall or some something that's a step up from your normal business, something that's critical, but it's a critical hotspot, so to speak. And you you may have a DSL connection in there, and maybe that DSL connection can't keep up with what the bandwidth requirements are at certain times. Maybe it doesn't justify a full-blown beefy connection. Maybe an hour a day or something, it peaks out. And so he's wondering, how do you combine multiple connections and kind of bond them together and make them work good, whether it be a DSL coupled with say a 3G connection, coupled with whatever.
Looping and swooping.
Looping and swooping. So let's see. If you want to just do failover routing, that's pretty standard, pretty straightforward. That's the easy one. It's you pick whichever one's the preferred better option. You give the default route there, and then you just have like another static route that with a higher administrative distance. That way, if one falls off, the other one takes over.
Yep.
If you actually want to bond them together, that's going to get a little funkier. For one, if you're doing DSL and 3G, the delay is going to be very significant between the two. So if you're trying to do like actual load balancing between the two, you're going to get a whole lot of jitter, because the DSL.
You can do route marks and say all this stuff goes this way and all this stuff goes this way, and then in the event that they fail, and then if you really want to bond them, you have to like what I do, I VPN into or EOIP tunnel into our core infrastructure, so I can have those same IP addresses come through. That way, all the traffic is generated from the same IP address, because a lot of servers that you connect to, let's say packets 1, 2, 3 go through this one and 4, 5, 6 go through this one, this WAN port. Then the server's like, I don't know, you go away. I'm not talking to you. That traffic was destined for this or this. So I found routing marks help me with that situation, and because I have a lot of wackiness that I have to deal with, and trying to make the impossible possible. So specifically, I've got a situation where I need to route not large, but /27s over to some people. Well, on a residential connection, that's just not going to happen, especially through Charter. So I found that I could funnel them in and then route them traffic from the data center. You're basically paying for the throughput cost if you do that. But in this case, it's still cheaper in the situation I'm in than paying Charter for a commercial account and then per IP. So,
yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
One thing I've heard. That's kind of really the only option to do it. If you're trying to route some addressing like that, you got to tunnel through and do all that crazy loop and swoop. In this specific scenario, if you wanted to, say you wanted to, you have multiple connections and you want them to look like one big fat connection, another thing you can do is create 3 tunnels, one from each of the providers back to a central point. So if you've got a data center somewhere, you could have a tunnel running between each one of those 3 tunnels, and then on those tunnels here you can bond them together, so that and then say choose round robin. That way, the first connection will shoot out here, second, third. So that way, if somebody does a speed test, it will look closer to the aggregate speed. You know what I mean?
And you'll be natting from behind one address.
Yeah, because it can all stay just that client private all the way through the tunnel. When it pops out at the data center, then it can go ahead and NAT to that public there. There'd be another way you could kind of make it look like it's one big fat connection. They do make specific appliances that take several connections together and kind of do the fake muxing in there, especially with like HTTP traffic. But if you're trying to do it in a MikroTik, I think the bonding method is the only way. And Andrew and I, which is unfortunate that he's not here, we had this exact same discussion a while back about how to kind of do that with, say, some 3G sort of stuff.
I've been playing with that NetWatch script for failover. The last couple of weeks, I've had several instances where I needed to use it, and but who am I to say that my core router is the death of the internet, or just PPPoE drops on their DSL connection, or whatever the situation is. It needs to be something that's pertinent to that customer. I've got this one customer. If this one server goes down somewhere in Arizona, their internet, as far as they're concerned, is down. Multiple WAN connections, one's DSL and one is us, and so I needed a way to, if the data center that we purchased bandwidth from couldn't resolve that IP address, then check over here instead, with their other WAN provider, and then do cost adjustment on the routes with that script. So it's pretty slick stuff.
That's cool.
What is this? Yeah, I read this, Justin. Justin sent a link. This
I sent a link. It's using PCC. I actually have one provider I'm using this with, and here's a question for you guys. One of the things we do with them, and we haven't had any complaints on any other protocols, is we mark HTTPS and always send the HTTPS traffic out, a single provider. That way, if you're doing some sort of round robin, you don't get kickbacks from security concerns and things like that. Have you guys seen any other protocols that it doesn't like being switched between multiple IPs?
Yeah, anything that's going to establish a session. Some stuff that's is cookie based that locks in by IP address. I've seen that before.
I've been using like routing marks to accomplish that. So that
usually what I do is it's like source to a destination. Go ahead and lock that into one and then send them out there. Or if you want, an entire source, lock it and send it there, and the entire source. That way all of their traffic for an individual user goes this way, and then it's I guess it's not the most even balancing, but it does a really good job for the most part, and seems to kind of keep things straight inside the router.
Yeah, there's a lot of intervention there with it. You got to kind of, keep an eye on it and say, okay, as I'm adding users and subtracting users to certain towers, you have to kind of go in and tweak it a little. I have some towers that have they have a couple hundred customers on them, and I'm doing, load balancing that way with the, routing the source IP. I've got, 512 IPs broken down, where /26 goes out this IP just because there's real heavy customers on there. The next /26 goes out another one, and I have to go in every now and then and tweak those based upon customer usage.
Yeah, and you know what? I think in those situations you're always going to have to do that. I don't think there is in the MikroTik there is no silver bullet. There's nothing.
ECMP, as far as I'm concerned, is junk.
What is?
So, ECMP, the equal cost multipath. You just set the.
Yeah, ECMP actually is not the preferred method to load balance anymore because there was an update in the Linux kernel, and I think it was intended to help prevent DOS attacks. But what it does is after about, it's a specific interval, it's like every 11 minutes or 12 minutes, there's a recalculation on the route table. So the ECMP, what it does is it basically runs a hash to determine where to send you, right? And it'll always send you, say, this direction. Well, when it recalculates that hash at that 11 minutes or that 12 minutes, whatever it is, you may or may not magically switch to the other one for the next 11 or 12 minutes. So if you've got a session initiated right here and then it does that magic switch, it's going to brick your session. So it's definitely, unless it's just in your internal infrastructure and you're routing around multiple routers to reach your gateways, don't use ECMP. Like if you're trying to load balance on 2 internet gateways, don't use it. It's going to break things.
Yes, it does. I can confirm that.
There you go. And now you know.
Yeah, now I know why. It's like, oh, this is crap. Why does this break every day?
Ask the guys who make that crazy Linux thing.
Yeah, I was reading. Have you ever sit down and read through the changelog on the kernel?
Dude, who has time other than you to sit and read change logs on the kernel?
It will put you to sleep. It is ridiculous.
Ugh.
I don't understand even what they're talking about. So,
You're ridiculous. This concept of having free time to do anything is amazing.
Yeah, what's free time?
Justin's got so much time he can't even buy a PC. He's got to use his Mac. It's ridiculous. But yeah, so I guess that's kind of the few things that just like popped in my head, like how you could kind of work your way around. Everything's going to be kind of rigging it, you know. But you know what? The PCC thing, it seems like MikroTik could probably, although they probably don't have the free time unless they hire JJ, to, you know, like put together kind of some little hidden package that's super crazy easy. It's just, you know, it's like IP, you know, ISP load balance, and then you can, you know, just adjust a couple of settings in there and it just magically does everything, you know, like some kind of super best algorithm script or something. And then one other thing that I've always wanted them to put in there, which I think would be crazy cool, is to put in a load balancer, like a real load balancer. Say there's a Linux application that's been open source forever called Balance, I think. It's just that simple. And in there, super easy to set up. You just basically tell it like the ports and then the servers back here, and then when stuff comes in, it'll load balance over to them, you know, and they could probably port that right in. And I'm not saying it's going to compete with F5, but a lot of your average Joes would love to be able to load balance to, say, some terminal servers or maybe some web servers, you know, like have it prefer to go to this web server, and if I happen to be updating it or I brick it in some way, then it'll just, you know, automatically switch it over to this other one. You know, something cool like that.
Have you guys ever used any of the PepLink products?
I have.
I haven't. I've heard of them.
I mean, their software is pretty top notch as far as a load balancer goes. I mean, they're kind of like what you're talking about, Greg. You know, they know, okay, I know what remote desktop protocol is. I know how to balance that across multiple WAN connections. You know, they've put in a lot of you know, exceptions into it where it deals with stuff.
Is that the same company as PepLink, like PepWave? That's all the same people, right?
I don't know about PepWave. I know their websites, you know, PepLink, should be just peplink.com, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I know all of those capabilities are in the MikroTik. I mean, it's such a robust product, you know, and there's so many things it can already do. It's just, you know, if there were like super easy interfaces for those,
yeah,
you know, I think it would be
the same
ridiculous.
People, the PepWave people, and certainly didn't spend that time on radio products. So, but that's good to know that I kind of had a bad experience with their radio products. So,
well, I mean, they charge a premium for those little PepLinks, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a cheap solution. I mean, you know, for a device that does, you know, 30 megabits of throughput, you know, it's $800-900. You know, once you start getting into where you're needing hundreds of megs, you've really entered the high dollar arena there. So
to me, the PepLink seem like they're better for a company that wants to buy a bunch of business cable modems and crank all those guys together. If you're like a big ISP where you're pulling in large amounts of bandwidth from multiple providers, just peer with them via BGP, and you can easily manipulate that traffic with some prepending here and there and shuffle things pretty evenly.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't have to pay a premium. You just buy a couple of MikroTiks and boom, you know, you're done.
Yep.
No $8,000 apparatus.
No. Or, I mean, you know, if you want redundancy, you put in one router or at least 2 routers, one for each ISP, maybe load 2 and 2, whatever. But a lot of people just run it on one. They'll just have one gateway and then just do all the heavy lifting in there.
Yeah, my philosophy is a BGP router per peer. Makes upgrades easier. It gives you some redundancy. If you want to get real crazy, you can, VRRP them together and things like that. But you really don't need to.
Yeah.
As long as you have one per peer, you can take one peer down for maintenance or
Not a big deal.
whatever, and no big deal.
Or you know what? If your upstream provider decides they're going to take a crap and their session starts flapping you and your CPU goes 100%, nobody's passing traffic on that. So if all your eggs are on that basket, they're going to bring down your entire router. And I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen on 6500s. With
that
Super
happened, that happened
720s.
to Medion about 8 months ago, and it took them about 2 hours to get it straightened out.
And I've seen upstream providers mess up so bad that I had to shut the peer down because they were blackholing traffic. I mean, I've seen that happen. It is what it is. The internet's a best effort service, so you got to be prepared. So all you can do is prepare as best you can on your side, and hope that your upstream will do the same.
I have one client in Chicago. Their upstream is very, very. I mean, they're very bad about flapping. If the link flaps more than 2 times in an hour, they dampen it for an hour.
Whoa.
So that network has another peer just because of that. And it's this is a major ISP up there with thousands and thousands of customers, and that's their policy, and you like it or not.
Yeah. And I've seen some people pull backup connections from other people, and they'll get like a 95th percentile based billing. That way they just don't send any traffic that way, so they pretty much don't get billed for it. But in the event that your main guy does take a siesta on you, you can still route out to the internet. It might kind of cost you a lot, but with 95th percentile though, you can usually burst for about a day and a half, and that gets thrown in the trash. So as long as your main ISP doesn't go down for more than a day and a half, you'll never really get billed for that.
True.
Do any of you guys, kind of off topic, know of a mini PCI solution for Verizon LTE that will work with MikroTik?
I haven't tried to do it.
Can you get a? It's not mini PCI though. You're wanting mini PCI, aren't you?
Well, I guess I could run something with a USB port. So I just need a solution, I guess.
I've seen guys do USB, Verizon dongles.
Yeah.
I just was hitting up Google on this and this company Alpha. It's so funny. They got I've got a couple products from them, but now they're making all these Ubiquity lookalike products. It's so funny. Check out our nano station, but it's not a nano station. It's so funny. Everybody, as I've seen like 3 or 4. I guess everybody's just trying to get a piece of that.
Well, and I don't know if Greg's followed this. One of the the rumors now is Ubiquity sent the Chinese mafia after some of these counterfeiters.
Really?
Yeah, they actually the rumor is that they hired some muscle to go in and hey, you guys are counterfeiting our stuff. We're here to shut you down.
But their kind of non-official response to that was that the counterfeiters are putting that information out there to try to hurt them as a company. So.
Would you cop to it though? Hey man, I just hired the mafia to go after.
No, you would. But that also sounds like something another company might do after another company IPOs just to get some bad press out there.
Oh yeah,
I've heard of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I could see both sides of it.
I mean, I think that's why Facebook stock tanked, right? MySpace set out a bunch of rumors. Is that what it was?
Who's
that how it works?
MySpace?
So I saw somebody post up the other day that said, if I go back far enough on my Facebook timeline, does it turn into MySpace? That's gotta hurt.
Maybe it was Pinterest or Groupon. So,
I'm
Speaking
still
of
waiting
Pinterest,
for someone to
I don't see
interview
it.
Tom from MySpace.
Was that the last guy on MySpace? Is that his name, Tom? That
Was
one
it-
guy that's still on there?
Wasn't the one guy that's still left? Wasn't Tom like your default friend? You know, even if you had no friends on MySpace, Tom was your friend.
Yeah, he was. Didn't he start the website? Yeah.
I have no idea. I never actually used MySpace. My first foray was into Facebook. I was a holdout. I tried to hold out as long as I could. I actually still know people who don't use Facebook, which seems so odd to me.
Yeah, like Sam, he refuses. He just absolutely will not.
Is he afraid he won't have enough friends? I'll friend him. Tell him I'll friend him. Come on.
What is his excuse? He calls it my face space.
My face. He's not on friend face. He's not on jitter.
No, he was talking about LinkedIn tonight. He was talking about how he knew a good number of people on LinkedIn and he's like, he was asking me how that one worked. He's like,
LinkedIn is an
like,
old man's Facebook. That's what that is. That's
Yeah.
your grandpa's Facebook. It's ridiculous.
So I was like, maybe that's a good place for you to start. So
It's kind of easy. Put his feet in the pool, then he can just kind of slowly wade in.
yeah,
I gotcha. Sounds like a solid plan.
but I need a solution for 4G. I got some guys out in the woods that they got a T1 that flaps about 3 times a day, and I've got 4G where on the entrance of the property, so I have to use a high gain and standing on at the highest point of the property, I can get it on my phone ever so slightly. So I think with a high gain antenna and the proper application of their money, I can make it work for them. So.
Yeah, Microchip actually has their supported hardware list. It's actually been updated. They have a
Oh, really?
4G LTE card. It's a USB card. It says it's a band-rich C501. It must be the chipset or something. It's tested with version 5.12. So you could do some search on that. Maybe it'll come up with something, but I was actually kind of surprised when I popped on there. They haven't updated this for quite a while, but now I see some. Yeah, there's 5.9 and higher. They've updated this recently. 5.15.
Good.
I know for a while they were pretty much saying, if you get a 3G card or the like and it doesn't work, then just send us the output and we'll, write you some drivers or something.
Very cool.
Connection strings. So they've been pretty good about it as far as I know.
Yeah, I need to. I gotta put something together to get this working. It's funny they got fiber pulled all over the campus, and they're gonna have their WAN is gonna be right now it's T1, so it's gonna be a 4G connection that falls over to the T1. And that's another note. Let's say they get a tiered service that they only get like 5 gigs a month. I guess I should talk to Andrew about this. It's like a little script that says, okay, 5 gigs on this WAN, and then switch over. In this billing cycle. So, in the event that they went over, I don't know. What do you think?
That'd be
Maybe.
easy to do if it was a triple PoE connection.
Yeah, I was going to say, PPPoE actually keeps track of how much throughput.
But if it's just a strict handoff connection, that complicates it a little.
Maybe you could graph the traffic from the interface, because it does that internal graphing. You could store that, and maybe you could look at that.
Can you look at that with what mechanism could you look at that?
I've never attempted
sure.
it, but you might be able to access that information. If not, you could offload NetFlow information, but then it would have to be collected on something internal to keep track of that. Or what else could you do? You could say Monday enable WAN 1, and then Tuesday enable WAN 2, and then just back and forth, depending on what day of the week it was. Or say it's an odd day of the month, then WAN 1 is enabled. If it's an even day, WAN 2 is enabled.
Mm.
I don't know.
So it's not good on Monday and then terrible on Tuesday. It's like, nobody comes to work on Tuesday anymore.
Well, I don't know. The cards are right next to each other. I can't imagine it being terrible.
Right.
Something to think about. They should be.
I see what you're saying. Just two separate 4G cards. Or two separate
Yeah.
accounts.
Two 4G cards, and you just enable one today, and then the next one tomorrow, and then the following. So just back and forth.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Knew we were
USB
friends
stuff,
for good reason.
speaking of USB stuff, Greg, have you done any more with USB storage on any of the MikroTik stuff?
I haven't recently. They've done several revisions, so I'm willing to bet they sped it up. I noticed on x86 with the USB connection, if I stream video using VLC, it actually goes. It'll work. If you try and use Internet Explorer tries to like cache like the entire thing like immediately, and it just kills the MikroTiks. But like VLC just streams it at a nice slow, even rate, just the rate necessary to stream the video smoothly. So it works pretty well. And I did test it on an x86 base, and it seemed to work significantly better because I started out trying it on a 751, I think, and that's when Internet Explorer, or not Internet Explorer, but the Microsoft Media Center or whatever was murdering the router. It was just pegging out the CPU, and just the router couldn't do anything. It was just killing it.
Okay.
So I more blame the software, but I don't know. I just, for like really streaming video, I don't know that it's got enough pep to really keep up. Although, I mean, maybe they've streamlined it, optimized it. I think I remember seeing something in the change logs about SMB at some point.
Yeah, I was just curious. I haven't done anything with it. I don't have much, use for it. I have a network attached storage, so
yeah,
that does me.
So does this little modem, this little USB gadget, this 4G job here, does it have a external antenna put on it, or am I going to have to smash it open?
I'm guessing. I'm guessing it doesn't have an external antenna. Being 4G, I haven't seen very many, quote, high-powered 4G
look here,
devices.
external antenna port. What is it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, overview. That's probably a good place to look. Huh?
never hurts. All right, guys. So we're approaching an hour on this thing, and it murders my machine to process these videos with this VOD burner application. Took me forever last time. So I think an hour is probably about as much as this thing can handle. It's going to take me probably 3 days to get this stupid thing to process.
Maybe we should send you a good computer.
No, I don't think it's the application that's just subpar. The very first one I did, I used my screen recording stuff that I like always use for everything, and it worked like a champ. But I didn't have the ability to really kind of get the audio the way I wanted to. It didn't really work out. Maybe if I can figure out how to get both sides of the audio properly, I could go with that. But this VOD burner thing like ties straight into Skype, and it kind of pulls the individual feeds and the audio, and you can kind of chop it up, and it supposedly works well, but it's pretty crappy.
Well, hopefully next time Andrew will be recovered from his Diablo 3 adventures.
That's so ridiculous. So ridiculous.
I can't hate on it. I've got to spend very little time with it, but it's my understanding he put in 10 hours the first day. So.
I talked to him yesterday, and it was a few hours short of a week for the official release, and he had 67 hours logged
Oh my
of
God.
actual
Oh, wow.
playtime.
I got like 4.
Kid's got a problem. Kid's got a problem. So I'm just gonna run through my blog really quick and point out some stuff that I saw recently. One is the mini speed tests from speedtest.net. And Justin had some great input on that. Is that they kind of expire it, so when a new version comes out, they kind of, I guess, disable the client. You got to go download the new one. But man, it's terrific to run internally. And I was thinking back at the Mum in Phoenix, we had this joke at the table that
Right.
redirect people to a fake speed test, and so I actually made one. But this will be perfect if you hijack people trying to go to speedtest.net and just boom, send them to your internal, and you can say, "Man, look, your speed's looking great, brother."
Yep.
So that would be a good one for that.
Maybe you could
the-
just host it at each tower.
The IP is 127.0.0.1, and it just runs right off their local machine. Just perfect. So then MikroTik on routerboard.com put up the RB 2011 LS-IN, which is basically the little 2011 that's got the 5 gig, 5100 ports, and then it's got an SFP port, which looks to be cool. It looks like most people want to use them as media converters, which, hey man, if it works, it works.
Yeah,
Yep,
I mean,
I'm
it's like a
excited
hopped up
about
media
that.
converter.
And then,
It's a media converter with SNMP. I mean,
yeah.
I wonder if you'll be able to do any attenuation analysis.
Oh, to look at the light levels and stuff on the outputs?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea.
That would be awesome.
And then, let's see, not too long ago, a customer I was working with wanted to test replication between some stand and some application performance between multiple sites, and I found this cool set of programs. One is WANbridge, one is WAN-EM. WANbridge is a Knoppix-based ISO. You throw it in a machine, it boots up, it finds all the NICs, puts them on a bridge, and then you can selectively put a delay on there. So it was perfect. So if you want 50 milliseconds of delay on anything moving through this, you just go on there, type custom 50, enter, and boom. You can even put in loss and something else on that one. But the really cool one I found was WAN-EM, and it's got tons of features out there. I think not only can you do a delay, but you can put in jitter, duplication, packet reordering, corruption, random disconnects. I mean, you can basically terrorize traffic using this thing.
Nice.
This was inspired to terrorize your Diablo 3 driver.
I couldn't help but think how, like on opening day, if I was to do that for everybody in our apartment complexes, like all 20,000 students, all of a sudden, had like, just think about that. Everybody had 300 milliseconds of delay all of a sudden, and like, it's like 5% packet loss. It would be insane, dude. Those guys would be so. Although apparently, due to service, they wouldn't have noticed anyway. I mean, they would have had the equal experience on opening day.
Yeah, the errors and the terrible launch.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But yeah, I mean, I don't think those things ever go perfectly.
I just don't understand how a company with that much experience doing that type of thing can. I think maybe they just don't buy enough infrastructure on day one. But why don't they just call up Amazon and say, okay, Amazon, we need some EC2 for a week, or whatever. Just leverage some cloud horsepower to handle traffic.
But who's to say it was a lack of horsepower and maybe just like, well, I mean, because they had bugs. They obviously had bugs. There was something like if you had somebody, like your companion, and you equipped a shield to the specific type of companion, it would basically break, like your session would lock up and you wouldn't be able to log back in. So they had bugs. I mean, it could have been a bug on their side too, causing all those problems. Let's see, what else? Just recently they released 5.16, a couple of fixes. I don't know, nothing too insane since the last time we talked, I guess.
Everybody needs to buy a Cheese Whiz handle from Greg.
Butter knife with a cheese whiz.
For sure.
Yeah, and then I put up a little link about the fiber fingers, the skinny fingers, and people kept complaining about the fact that they're $60. They seem to forget that I didn't pay for these; the company freaking paid for them. And It's when you got big fat man sausage fingers and you're trying to get in there and pull out LCs out of, an LIU that's just packed full of them. It's impossible.
Yeah, it really is. I've sweated many late nights trying to do that, especially if the LIU's at the top of the rack and you're standing on a ladder and everything else.
It's a pain in the butt. It's just not worth all the heartache. And I guess, man, that's pretty much it. Hopefully we can get together again next week and get this going regularly again. Maybe
Cool.
kind of a standing one every Tuesday or something. That would be cool.
Yeah, I would love that. I also hope I have some interesting news next week.
That you can actually talk about.
Yeah, probably not. I'll probably hear on this. Depressing.
All right, JJ. So what are your closing arguments? What do you got?
We don't have much. Just I don't have anything. I guess. We went over security. We went over the bonding for 3G connections or whatever. And don't really have anything in closing other than don't got nothing.
Inspiring.
Inspiring.
All right, Justin. What do you have?
I just want to remind anybody out there, keep the questions coming on the blog and everything, and let us know what you want us to talk about, because we need your help.
Indeed.
One thing I was kind of kicking around would be to do this on Skype, but also to stream it maybe live, like on Ustream or Justin.tv, and give people the option to actually ask us
Interface.
questions live.
Yeah, that would really be nice. Like that guy you're always watching that plays the video game.
Oh yeah, dude! I watch people all the time playing video games. But I don't watch them for the video games. I don't even have it up on screen. I'm just listening to them talk and say idiotic things. It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
What is that one guy that does that all the time?
But you know what? I'm not ashamed to say it. There's a guy called Chess Network, and he streams chess. He plays chess. But there's something undeniable about watching this guy play chess. My wife can't stand it. This guy, it's like, watching anybody that's just amazing at what they do and they're doing it. It's pretty cool. Like when you see those videos of the Indian guys, like putting shoes in the box. He's like flipping around, just bam, just catching them and stuff. It's like, yeah, it could be mundane, but if you're awesome at it, I want to watch you.
Yeah.
And this guy's just awesome, man. But yeah, I was thinking about maybe a live stream. The only downside is that it might be humiliating and nobody show up, and so we don't have any interaction or any questions, and it's just we just have to pretend like we're not doing it.
We can get our mothers and people that really care about us to log in, and we'll just feed them seed questions.
We'll make some fake accounts, and then I'll just have some questions queued up that I'll fire off. But yeah. So other than that, I don't really have anything. Yeah, just keep the questions coming. Really like to say thank you to JJ and Justin, some of the sharpest guys out there. Definitely hit them up if you guys want some real consultants. If you want just some guy that's kind of give me a holler.
Don't sell yourself short.
Oh no, I'm like 6'3". I'm pretty tall. So let's see, and then Andrew, Diablo 3 over us. I'm just saying, you chose Diablo 3 over your friends. It's pretty ridiculous. So I'm actually going to get off because I got a change window tonight. I'm swapping out a DNS server tonight. So thank you guys. Thanks everybody. Send us some questions. Yeah. Late guys.
Sounds good.
Yes.